Welcome everybody back to the Board of Governors meeting, open session. I'll start with a few opening remarks and hand it over to our president. As we reflect on our times, success at Rutgers over literally hundreds of years has depended upon individual innovation, individual initiative, creative thinking, academic freedoms, but it is also dependent upon our sense of mutual respect and regard for each other. A common belief in our collective efforts, our mutual regard for each other. We all believe with confidence in our own accomplishments and achievements, but we've come to a place where we all believe we will ultimately accomplish more by working together with the impact and influence of our university community around us and with us, with mentors, colleagues, friends, and faculty who will challenge and support us to new heights. Let us not forget this in these challenging times. We are better together. We can disagree on any number of things. We can challenge a perspective or thought or ideas, but we all must believe in the common good, a common future, for we are better together. This is our opportunity in this moment to collectively hold on to and to advance the values that we all so deeply believe in and aspire to. That's our common shared mission and goal. And let our work and our discussions today advance this mission. Thank you again for joining us. President Holloway.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me begin, as I like to do on these occasions, talking about student and faculty accomplishments. I'm delighted to say that Omar Fautier, as a pharmacy student, has been selected for the Truman Scholarship, one of only 54 winners from across the country. He's now our 15th Truman Scholar. I had the privilege of breaking the good news to him along with Chancellor Conway, albeit via Zoom. Omar is going places. He's going to carry the Rutgers name with him every step of the way. We couldn't be more proud of him. We also have 4 Goldwater Scholars this year, including our first 2 ever from Rutgers Camden, previously announced. Yesterday, I'm delighted to say that yesterday, Professor Charles M. Payne was elected to the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. Dr. Payne is Henry Rutgers Distinguished Professor of African American Studies, as well as Director of the Joseph Cornwall Center for Metropolitan Research. This, as you all know, is admissions season. We are 1 week away from the May 1st deadline for accepting offers of admission, and the news is encouraging so far. From the start, undergraduate applications have been up by 14% over last year, with growth in all campuses. This is actually remarkable. This is the second year of the Common App. You have explosive growth the first year, second year it levels off. We've gone up 14%. This means that more than 96,000 students have applied this year. A lot of the growth is in out-of-state applications, up 25%. All 3 campuses are well ahead of the pace compared with this time last year in terms of accepting offers and paying their deposits. I know there's a lot more work to be done, but I want to take a moment to commend our admissions teams, our financial aid teams, and all who have worked so hard to welcome each incoming class. Led by coordination efforts on each campus, we have made huge progress in how our admissions teams work together to help prospective students find the part of Rutgers that will best meet their needs. The state budget. Different news than admissions, a little less rosy. The outlook for higher education in the state budget is not favorable. The governor's budget proposes $65 million in cuts to Rutgers and the university operating aid and line item support, including significant cuts to funding for the Garden State Guarantee and the summer tuition assistance grants. We recognize that the state faces budget challenges, including a structural deficit, but we also need more state support in order to effectively carry out our mission and maintain the progress we've made over the past several years. As I do each year, I'll be testifying before the legislature's and budget committees in May, and our government relations team is also working hard to advocate for as much restoration as possible to limit this budget environment. I'll also say I'm an officer of the New Jersey President's Council, and we are regularly lobbying different key members of the legislature for support. There's a lot of support for higher education in the state, so while I'm concerned, I know that a lot of people are rooting for us. The federal landscape. Since January, the federal government has announced policy changes, issued executive orders, revoked student visas, canceled grant funding, and taken other actions that affect or threaten the operations of our nation's colleges and universities. We have felt the impact of these changes. Rutgers scholars have had their research grants reduced or terminated. International students at Rutgers have had their visas revoked without explanation or notification. We were one of 60 institutions that received warning letters from the Office of Civil Rights and the Department of Education. And the ambiguity and unpredictability of these actions have created an atmosphere of uncertainty and fear. My cabinet and I have been working to monitor the changes, keep the Rutgers community informed and supported, and advocate for our university in multiple ways. I want to mention a few of those ways here. In the many communications we have sent to the Rutgers community, the chancellors and I have reaffirmed our commitment to diversity and to academic freedom. I've repeatedly stated that we believe in inclusion, not exclusion, and in providing opportunities for all while complying with federal and state law. We've established a 24/7 hotline for students with visa or immigration concerns. We have broadcast Know Your Rights information and established an FAQ website. Earlier this week, the ACLU and Rutgers Immigrant Community Assistance Project, or RECAP, filed for injunctive relief on behalf of 6 international students who have had their SEVIS status terminated without explanation, visa status. For faculty and researchers, we have established a rapid response process for any stop work orders or grant cancellations with immediate support through the Chancellor's offices, the Office of General Counsel, and the Office for Research Team. Rutgers has provided support for litigation that defends our interests. We provided declarations in support of blocking the NIH funding cap on reimbursing indirect cost of research. We supported the New Jersey Attorney General in issuing guidance on the Dear Colleague letter sent by the U.S. Department of Education, thus affirming our commitment to diversity. We signed an amicus brief in support of a request for injunction against the termination of international student visas. We are in contact with our partners in state government and our congressional delegation to communicate the impact these changes have had or will have on our students, faculty, and the research enterprise. We also continue to coordinate with our peers in higher education through associations like the Big Ten and the Association of American Universities. Constant peer-to-peer conversations with other provosts on faculty support, with other global offices on international student support, with other CFOs on financial strategy, and with other research officers on grant cancellations, to cite a few examples. Despite the challenges I've outlined here, our primary focus remains on the day-to-day academic enterprise at Rutgers, and that work is something we can all take enormous pride in. We're looking forward to May, when we salute and send forth our graduates on all campuses with celebratory commencements and convocations. This time of year is a perfect occasion for remembering that Rutgers is an outstanding university with faculty who are making life-changing discoveries, students who are preparing for lives of purpose and accomplishment, and staff who are dedicated to supporting the excellence of this university in every way. I want to thank the board for all you do to keep Rutgers moving forward as one of this nation's finest public universities. Thank you.
Thank you, President Holloway. We now are going to have a presentation from Deans Murtha and Johnson on the progress with the new medical school. I believe they're right here. Welcome. We're delighted to have you here. Thank you so much for making the time to be here today and bring us this important update. I know you've been extremely busy, and your teams and task forces have been extremely busy as well. So thank you so much for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, President Holloway, Board. It's an honor and privilege to be back with you, sharing an update on the integration of the medical schools to create the new Rutgers School of Medicine. Before we start, you'll see that I have a few folks behind me, and I wanted to take a minute and introduce some of those individuals, because what Bob and I realize is that we stand here before you, but all these people back here are doing the work, and the hard work, actually, to accomplish the goals. So Dr. Carol Terragino is the Senior Associate Dean for Education and Academic Affairs at Robert Wood Johnson Medical School. She's the faculty lead for the LCME accreditation process. Dr. Maria Soto-Green is the Executive Vice Dean at New Jersey Medical School. She's leading the efforts at the New Jersey Medical School campus. We have two additional colleagues, Dr. Arjuna Pradhan. She's the Associate Dean for Education and the Interim Chair for OBGYN. We're keeping her very busy. And then Kristen Traba, who's the Senior Associate Dean for Education at New Jersey Med School. Bob and I are going to share some remarks to start us off, and then Arjuna and Kristen are going to give you a brief update on a specific area of the work that we've been doing. And we're going to keep to time. We promise. Bob?
You know, she's been very close because she knows I start to preach whenever I get to her.
No history lessons today.
So thank you very much for inviting us back here. We thought it was very important to begin at least with making sure everyone sees the vision that we see. Our vision is one medical school. Rutgers and UMG before that had 2 fully accredited medical schools. What we want to do now is to combine those 2 fully accredited medical schools into 1 fully accredited medical school. It is a daunting task. The schools will be equal or nearly equal in both North and New Brunswick, 1 dean, 1 set of systems. But that's the vision. And every time we come before you, we're going to make sure that you see that North Star and move in that direction.
Thanks, Rob. And I'm going to break my rule, but you've heard me read these before line by line. These are the set of guiding principles that we started at the very beginning of this integration process. These guiding principles we typically read at every one of our integration meetings because it is foundational, and I'd say that in many instances throughout the last 18 months, we have leaned into these when we have situations that come up that feel complicated. We go back to these guiding principles, and it's really been an important guide to our work.
One additional thing about these guiding principles, I think it's very important to say, this is the reason why this process has gone so well. We have been praised for the transparency of the process, and we make sure that we adhere to these principles in everything that goes on. This is worked out very well.
So the timeline for accreditation? Yeah, I got it. I got it. You rest, Bob. You'll see there's a red arrow about 1/3 of the way into the timeline. That's where we are right now. So we still have a long ways to go. We are anticipating that by September of 2026, we will be submitting the full materials to the Liaison Committee on Medical Education, our accrediting body, for their consideration. We already have the dates scheduled for the site visit, January 11th to the 13th of 2027. The LCD will come to campus and visit both campuses, actually. If all goes well, we anticipate that we'll receive LCD accreditation in June of 2027. That gives us that year to enroll the charter class of the Rutgers School of Medicine. It also means that the class that is currently the first years, rising second years, will be the first class to graduate under the Rutgers School of Medicine accreditation. And I would say that in both schools, the students are excited about that as an opportunity.
One of the things that some people ask is, why does this process take so long? The accreditation process requires that we be similar in both places, and although both of our schools are accredited, they're accredited with different programs. And so we have to spend the time to work with the faculty, work with the staff, to bring them together and then go through this accreditation process.
So you've seen our mission, vision, and values before, and we bring them back again because we've added our strategic pillars. And we've actually done some strategic planning work, which you'll hear a little bit more about. Actually, we did that work at a recent summit that you'll hear a little bit about in a minute. We did actually get feedback from our stakeholder groups that we had way too many value statements. We went back to the drawing board on that work and reflected back on the feedback that we had gotten from the stakeholders across both campuses, and have narrowed in our value statements to these 5: excellence, integrity, collaboration, dignity, and belonging. And the strategic pillars you'll see in the middle, with a foundation under all the pillars of health equity, which we continue to be focused on.
Sorry. One of the very important things in this process is that we needed to involve our community. This is not something that we can do. I guess the deans could just decide to do it. But we need to make sure that our thousands of faculty and staff and students all come together in this, and it be a process that involves as many as possible. So you'll hear throughout this, we have a number of faculty and students and committees that respond to the LCD. We have task forces that have people giving us advice about all the other parts of our community. And we've had a number of summits where we bring together the community to review what we've done, to give us advice about moving into the future. The last summit was April 9th. It's held here in Brunswick. We had 420 people involved in this, about half on Zoom and half in person. And it was just a wonderful, uplifting experience, just as the first one was that we held in Newark. And we're actually getting ready for number 3. I don't know where we're gonna hold number 3, but let me smooch. I don't want to
Actually, just to say, in the summit, we spent the first hour and a half updating. What you're going to hear today from Dr. Traba and Dr. Burdon is the curriculum update that was presented at the summit. Mostly to be able to share with you the enormity of the work that's happened and the progress that's been made. And then for much of the summit time, we actually broke out into small groups for strategic planning. And you'll see that actually, we have a brief video. Go to the next slide. Just want to step on my foot again. Okay. Bob said that there were a lot of good pictures of him in that video.
Unfortunately, I wore a different suit today.
Many of those pictures you don't realize, but what I see when I look at those is that many of those pictures were New Jersey Med School and Robert Wood Johnson Med School people working together. And you can, the feeling in that space, in that room was really powerful. The connection and collaboration was built in that space, was really terrific. So, task forces.
Task force, thank you. One piece of this process is the LCD process, and that's what we saw on the slide before. The other piece is everything else that involves the medical school. It's not just the accreditation process for the HVAC program, but it's our research, our clinical activities, our space, our students, the whole community. And we realized that we needed to involve the community in developing our approach to this. So we developed a series of task forces. Task forces were named. We went out to volunteers for the community. Usually about 200 people volunteer to participate in these task forces. They meet for about half a year and they come up with recommendations. We've completed now 2 series, one in March and one just finished started in November. We're receiving the recommendations from those task forces, and we're going to, and part of it's going to be developing the new task forces. You see, and I know you've seen these slides before, that these are the names of those task forces and some of the recommendations. Now, the recommendations run the gamut, some from blue sky recommendations all the way down to things that are really, really practical. And those things that we can do now, we're doing them now, we're making instituting some of the activities. Others will have to move in, create activities for them when we move into school.
Again, actually, just to, sorry, everybody who raises their hand and says they want to be on a task force is allowed to participate. Nobody is ever turned away, and that was a really important principle of this work because the input was really important and we needed to have that. Okay. This is, so we are required by the LCD to do an independent student analysis. The independent student analysis is actually organized by the medical students, not by us. So leadership, student leadership from New Jersey Med School and Robert Wood Johnson Med School got together, designed the independent student analysis, a survey, implemented that survey across both campuses, and then this heat map is the results of that survey. I show it not because we want to get into the details, I show it mostly to be able to show you that in the majority of instances, our schools are both doing very well, and our students really are happy with their experiences. That's the green. There's a lot of green on those heat maps. There are some areas where there's opportunity. These are things that we already know about. that are being addressed and being taken care of. Financial aid is in that red bar at the top, facilities in the red bar at the top. So there are some things that we're addressing and taking on, and we have to repeat this independent student analysis in the fall. So we have another opportunity for us to survey the students, have them give that feedback. This has to be green for the LCME accreditation. And just an update with respect to the facilities. You can go to the next slide, actually. We've been working with the institutional planning and operations office, and actually this is a side-by-side comparison of where we're headed. And thanks to the board and support for this type of work, to get our campuses to be comparable. That means the Helix building here in New Brunswick and renovations to the MSB. These are really important for us to get LCME accreditation. So that work is happening in most spaces. So when we think about, and I'm going to take this now, because the animation's not working. Okay, so when we think about LCME accreditation, we think about it as a 1,000-piece puzzle. This 1,000-piece puzzle, we started with a giant pile of puzzle pieces, not knowing exactly what to do. Just like you would for any other puzzle, you organize them by color. And that's what we did in this instance. These are the pillars of these actually are the subcommittees of the Integration Advisory Committee, organized around the LCME standards. And within those, there's long lists of things for us to do. The top green are things that we've finished, red are in progress, and black are things that we still need to work on. So when we think about our giant puzzle, we're starting to fill in the pieces. We've got most of the border complete, and we've got some pieces in the middle as well. We're really happy with the progress that we've made, but that's where we're heading. And as part of the puzzle, you see the turquoise curriculum pillar there. That's what we're going to ask Dr. Traub and Dr. Bernard to update you on.
Well, thank you all for inviting us to dance. Thank you for inviting us to the party and rooting us on. We're here to tell you about the curriculum. And so the new curriculum for the Rutgers School of Medicine. And what is that going to look like? So if you're a puzzle aficionado like myself, Dean Murtha already told you, you work on that outline, and then where do you go? Well, you look for common color pieces. You look for recognizable objects within the puzzle. And so our recognizable object today is curriculum, because that probably speaks to all of us in different spaces. I suspect the other reasons that Dean Murtha and Dean Johnson invited us is our group has done a significant amount of work to complete our piece of the puzzle, and we couldn't have done this work. You know, Kristen and I are representing NJMS and RWJ, but we could not have done it without all our colleagues. There's so many people that the work has gone, that have done the work to get us to this point. So, you know, as we're thinking about this conversation that we're having today and that we're in this common space of curriculum, yeah, the curriculum is important in terms of the puzzle. It's really important in terms of, we all know this, the architecture of a school, right? And so, because we've been saying a lot, LCME, it supports the accreditation and the licensure. It actually directs the professional identity formation and the lifelong learning that we want our medical students to actually embrace. It shapes how faculty teach clinical competency and how we prepare for what this institution wants the future of healthcare to look like. And finally, and probably most importantly, the medical school curriculum shapes patient outcomes, and that's what it's all about, right? So, in building our curriculum, we leaned heavily into our school's mission statement and the pillars that Dr. Murtha talked to you guys about, these strategic pillars. So as we thought about what do we want our school to look like, and so one of those pillars is compassionate care. So when we're thinking about a competency that's, competencies that are going to frame our curriculum, we speak to professionalism and humanism, and we speak to interpersonal and communication skills. Who doesn't want a kind doctor? Who doesn't want a doctor who can't communicate with them, right? So then, as we're thinking about, another pillar, transformative education. In healthcare, that doesn't happen unless you have faculty who can teach the patient care, the procedural skills, who can deliver that medical knowledge and who can teach people how to use practice-based learning to continue to keep learning and improve the quality of the care they're delivering. We talk about innovative research, and then, so discovery and dissemination builds right in there, right? Because that's an important piece of who we are, of what the future of healthcare should look like. We talk about community engagement, right? And we all know our communities are our individual private practices, our faculty practices, our hospitals, our neighborhoods, our state, and our country, global, and that's what systems-based practice is about, that you're able to function within whatever community you are in and know that you're a part of all these different communities. So that's an important part of a competency that we need to teach our students. And the final one is the culture of belonging. And Dr. Holloway's taught us a lot about that. And so health equity is something that is important to us, that underlies, it's a mainstay of who both our medical schools are and what's important to us. So we brought that out as a competency. So these 8 competencies is what the future Rutgers School of Medicine will be.
And then you can see the sub-competencies underneath with further descriptions, but we wanted to focus on one, which really is obviously one of the core components of being a physician, the patient care and procedural skills. And I picked this one because, as you can see, you'll see in a moment, this was a major driver for our doctorate course in the first 2 years, which we are aligning actually for 25-26 academic year. So while, as Dean Bertha noted, the accreditation will be coming in 2027, that does not mean we're waiting, right? So we're making major strides over the next few years to start aligning the curriculum in real time. And what that's leading to is massive innovation, which we are incredibly excited about and can feel that enthusiasm through our course directors and clerkship directors. So I wanted to highlight the Patient-Centered Medicine and Health Equity course, which is what we're calling our doctorate course, tying into our major commitment to health equity. And that will be threaded across our first 2 years of the curriculum with a more intense period day 1 when medical students start. They'll have a 3-week intensive course to really prepare them for all of their clinical experiences, because we want them in the clinics early too, right? Pre-clerkship does not mean purely lecture-based. It's about getting them into the clinical environment as well. Along with that is our commitment to Newark and New Brunswick and the surrounding areas as part of our community engaged service learning, which is a longitudinal requirement over the course of the first 2 years. The remaining of the course I won't go through in detail, you can see is a more traditional organ system course as we go through. And so these are the common core things we have agreed on and are moving forward on. I mentioned the longitudinal doctorate course, and as I noted, we will be near identical in this upcoming year, this July, which we're incredibly excited about. The community engaged service learning, where both schools and campuses are committed to. And then we have made the decision that our curriculum pre-clerkship will be pass-fail across both campuses starting this July of 2025. That's a major alignment, I think a huge accomplishment across the campuses. And finally, we'll also have core content resources from other external services as well to provide students with the Assembly Step, our licensing board, practice questions, and core content for them to use as well as for our faculty to build upon the curriculum in addition.
So I'm going to tell you what happens in the 3rd year and 4th year. And rather than going into the nitty-gritty of how many weeks everything is, what I want to just call out is our internal medicine clerkship, right? This is bread and butter medicine for every single medical student. But I'll tell you, Robert Wood Johnson going into this process was a 6-week clerkship. NJMS, it was a 10-week clerkship. And we have incredibly passionate, knowledgeable faculty. And when you've been doing something for decades and decades, you think, I've been doing it, and I've been doing it right, and I turn out a great result. My answer is the right answer. So I call out this particular clerkship because this whole process has been about collaboration and communication. And so, after getting everybody, all the right people in the room together to say, how do we deliver this material, the objectives that we talked about, these 8 objectives that each clerkship has to bring to life every single time they deliver their material, what we got everybody to agree on and feel good about is that internal medicine clerkship is going to be 8 weeks long. And that same sort of conversation happened all the way through for family medicine and primary care, for emergency medicine, for pediatrics, surgery, OBGYN, psychiatry, and neurology. Standard pieces of a third-year med school curriculum. Then as we went into fourth year, the sub-I's of fourth year, you're practicing to be a doctor. We all agreed we had 4 weeks already. Critical care. It's kind of important when somebody is really sick that you know what happens, right? So we had a 4-week requirement at Robert Wood and JMS didn't. We put it together and we said, how are we going to make sure that we have the resources that both things are happening? And so now both campuses will have a 4-week critical care elective as well. That's a requirement. And then we added physical medicine and rehab, which was existing at NJMS, and we've added it into the RWJ curriculum. So I tell you these specifics because I think this integration has been a terrific opportunity for all of us as faculty who've been here a long time to revisit and ask that question. We're doing it well, could we do it better? And so we've had a chance to move the Lego blocks around and deliver a pretty strong curriculum that's beginning next week. So that third year begins. And so we went through and we had to agree on learning objectives at both campuses. What are the core clinical encounters? How do we evaluate? We had different evaluation systems for our medical students, and we had to come to agreement on that. What's the grading paradigm like? We had to come to agreement on that. That specific structure, how much is inpatient and outpatient? When the students evaluate the clerkships, what are they using? And then, of course, those required fourth-year experiences that you talk about. So we are now completely aligned to do this work going into academic year 25-26. So we can show the LCME at the end of the day, just a year from now, we have great outcome measures that we are already aligned and ready to integrate.
So I think we've given a lot of information, but I think what's missing is the feeling that we all have, and this may sound a bit cheesy, but we really are starting to feel like a family. Like we talk so much about the culture of belonging and building community, but we are there, it's tangible. We are one community now and really truly striving to create a better curriculum, an innovative curriculum, and create even better physicians, not just for New Jersey, but for the nation. And I say that as I think the Integration Summit is a great example. We weren't just there as colleagues, we were there as partners. You saw us working together across in different small groups and settings like that, but we all know each other now. We've been working together for several years now on these projects, and so it really is tangible. We are one community now, and super excited of where we're going forward.
So thanks to both of you. I just want to add one brief thing. We currently both sit with separate LCME accreditations. Curriculum change in medical school is very common. It happens all the time. There's a process for curriculum change that has to be attended to for each of the 2 separate LCME accreditations. That process has been done for each school, so it meant each curriculum committee had to review and approve the changes that are being put in place for this coming year.
Thank you. What we're doing is phenomenal. It is truly transformative. When we are done, Rutgers University will have the 2nd largest medical school in the United States. In the history of medical education in this country, this has never been done before. There's never been one university that had 2 medical schools that took those 2 medical schools and transformed them into one fully accredited medical school. It is an enormous job. And in the process of doing this, we are moving toward great innovation in medical education. So it's great. One of the things that's important, however, is we let everybody know about it. Especially in New Jersey, whenever you do something different, people get really upset and wonder about it. So Amy and I have spent a great deal of time talking to everybody, almost every politician we can get our hands on, sometimes more than once. In the newspapers, on radio shows, we're speaking to clergy. Later this month, we're leading a clergy here in New Brunswick. And it's got to the point now that people are talking to us about it and bringing it up. We were both in programs this week, and people came up to us and said, oh yeah, how are you doing, and how's it going? And so we are creating a great deal of buzz about this, and we're going to continue to move in that direction. That's one of the great successes of this entity.
So we're going to end with some of the things that we still are worried about. It's great to talk about all the successes, but also to share with you some of the challenges that we face. I mentioned before financial aid. I just want to give a shout out to Mike Gower and his team. They've really stepped up to the table and engaged and partnered with us and tolerated us, actually, in some instances, I would wholly admit. We have made great progress, and we're not done, actually. There's still challenges in the financial aid space. We uncover things, it feels like once a month or so, that we didn't appreciate or realize. Now we have relationships where we can come to the table and fix those things together. We're seeing a much more efficient resolution of problems, and we're hopeful that our independent student analysis will be better this fall. The coverability of the campuses, we've alluded to before. I think we're on a good path for that, but we've got to keep that pressure up because the LCD needs to see that when they visit us in January 27. Just like everybody else, the financial health of every organization is something we should all keep in mind. We're focused on philanthropy because we believe this is a really important opportunity for the medical school going forward. As we elevate our brand, elevate what we're doing in innovation, it's an opportunity for us to really take full advantage of philanthropy. And Kimberly hopefully has been a great partner in that space as well. And then we always worry about keeping up the momentum. It's an enormous amount of work for people that already have full-time jobs. And the energy and enthusiasm has been really terrific. We just need to keep that up. And that's it, Bob.
That's it. Thank you very much. We have a few minutes for questions. If you have any. If you don't have any, that's fine too.
Thank you to all four of you for being here today and giving us both a wonderful overview and some really tangible details that allow us to understand and share then beyond just the data, but what it feels like. I really appreciate you explaining that, because a lot of times you go to conferences, you go to something, and of course we're working together, that's what we do. But for you to take a minute to step back and say, but we almost didn't think about that anymore because we just were working together so well and it felt like one community and one family. So thank you, deans, for highlighting this to us, and thank you, faculty, for doing that. We'll open the floor for questions. Mr. Mannigan.
Thanks, Amy. I just want to note that the reason this has never been done before is because it's really hard. I want to commend the Chancellor and the Deans and your team on the work that's being done, being intimately familiar with all the stakeholders in play here and the challenges that arise in undertaking efforts like this. It's really well done and good work. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. We actually should also want to give a shout out to the Chancellor, who's really been supportive and has stepped up of late, especially to help us out with some of the things that we needed to get the curriculum in place.
Just let the minutes reflect that I gave this Chancellor a shout out before the Dean.
So noted, Mr. Mannigan.
I'll remember that.
And Dr. Zubair.
Thank you. Great presentation and great work. I think as a clinician, I really think it's an amazing opportunity what we're giving to third year, fourth year medical students. How many hospital and clinical sites we're going to provide. I don't think anybody in the country is providing that. If you really look at the number of hospitals, and then what I'm looking also is subspecialty, which is in these 13, 14 hospitals where residents from third year, fourth year can rotate and really look forward for their future where they want to be. And they can choose critical care and cardiology. Beth Israel great, and there in cardiology we'll have neurology and Robert Johnson. So I think this is amazing what we're going to provide in these students for 30 years. Thank you.
You know,
Great work.
clinical site placement is a pain point for every medical school. If we had more clinical sites, Robert Johnson, Barnabas Health, we would be able to enroll more students actually as well. So, but actually the health system's been great partners, and we're working on that together, which is really terrific. This will give students an opportunity to have experiences between campuses for elective and sub-I work. So there will be a broadening of what opportunities will be available to them.
Just want to give a shout to Dr. Greensboro. I don't know if you remember, she's my mentor many, 30 years ago.
Fantastic. Mr. Chapman.
I too want to just commend you. I know that you've been before our health committee a few times this past year, and your ability to take an incredibly complex and long-standing, time-consuming topic and synthesize it into something that's incredibly important, will be a world-class addition to this university, and make it even entertaining for those of us that are listening to the presentations. And each time, I've now heard it maybe 3 or 4 times directly, I come away with something different. And the fact that we're going to have this, a single medical world-class institution right here, combined with all the other activity we have, the Cancer Institute, and all the other things that are happening throughout Rutgers University and also here directly in New Brunswick, is just a tremendous asset, especially given the world and time that we're living in. So kudos to you. Thank you for making sure the trains continue to run on time. It's really something that's, we have a lot of other tasks for you when you finish this one. Because if you can do this, you can probably do anything. Thank you.
You're very hard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tappan. I'll leave the floor open for additional comments or questions. Okay, hearing none, thank you very much. Continuing with the theme today, we have the opportunity to have our Senior Vice President from the Office of Research with us today, Dr. Michael Zwick. Everybody in this room knows what's going on right now, or has some perspective, or is impacted by the federal government's activities, executive orders, and other things that pose both day-to-day challenges to our work and existential questions and challenges to our very existence. All of this seems to be settling itself in our Office of Research. So we're really fortunate to have Dr. Zwick here with us today to talk a little bit more about the Office of Research, what it does, how they support our faculty and investigators, and what's going on right now. So, hot topic of the moment, Dr. Zwick, over to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Chair Towers, the Vice Chair Law, and all the members of the Board of Governors for inviting me to speak about Rutgers Research and Innovation Enterprise. And I'm sure, as you know, and as Chair Towers just introduced, the historic partnership between the federal government and our nation's research universities is fraying. This partnership originated in the 1950s, at the end of the Second World War. And it's allowed the United States to lead in research and innovation. It's allowed us to promote economic development. It's allowed us to strengthen our national security and provide a better world for our children and grandchildren. However, the challenges that I'm going to talk about today that are impacting this historic partnership at Rutgers and at other research universities in the country affect more than our research and innovation enterprise. They actually affect everything that we do. And so Rutgers' tripart mission is teaching, research, and public service. And it is the research, scholarship, and creative endeavors of our faculty that inform the academic programs, inform the teaching that we provide to students, whether they be undergraduate, graduate, or postdoctoral fellows. And it's the students who work alongside our faculty in our laboratories, doing their research and scholarship, that allow us to bring great discoveries to the world. And then it's our research and teaching that allow us to perform our key public service functions. And we've heard some of this today, where we heard about support to patient care, which is critically important, one of our key public service missions. We provide support for the state of New Jersey, for our industry partners in the state, in the world, and we provide service to the communities and the people of New Jersey. So these are all interrelated. This is a tripartite mission, and every part of these is interrelated. And so challenges in the research enterprise are going to, by our nature, going to impact our teaching and our public service. So I wanted to step back a little bit and ask, why does our nation even invest in research in the first place? Why is it important? And I think the life that we've lived has been, in a large part, been due to the investments that our predecessors made in research and innovation. It's allowed the United States economy to be the largest and most powerful in the world. And it has allowed us to have a quality of life that is unsurpassed on this nation, on the globe. But But at the same time, the world is becoming incredibly competitive. It's much more competitive. We see fierce competition from China because of their investments in research and innovation. There's fierce investments from Europe in research and innovation. In fact, Europe right now is trying to recruit American scientists to leave the United States to come to Europe. So we are in a world that is, in some respects, smaller, more interdependent, and fiercely competitive. The second point is our research supports economic development and growth. I think I've made that case quite clearly. I think there's no doubt in New Jersey and the United States, university research has been critically important to the growth and development and innovation in our economy. We survive by always being one step ahead, and it's research and innovation that allows us to be one step ahead. And then the third is that universities have and will continue to provide solutions to the world's greatest challenges. We are working on the hardest problems. Our investigators are working on the most challenging problems that face our world. And that's where this happens. That's why it's research and innovation. That's where these ideas originate. Now, these discoveries may get turned into products. They get to turn into things like companies, but the origin, the discovery occurred at a research university. So what are going to be the impacts to the cuts to the federal research funding? We all read about this in the newspaper. And I think the first thing I'll focus on is the lack of training for future researchers. This is going to impact our teaching mission. This is going to impact our ability to provide transformative educational experiences for undergraduates. It's going to impact our education of graduate students, impact our training of postdoctoral fellows. And that impacts the future. Most of those individuals get jobs in industry. They're not staying in academia. And we are hurting our economy by not training these individuals who are going to go work at Bristol-Myers Squibb or go work at other companies in New Jersey. We're going to lose critical research. And here we may not know what we've lost because we're just stopping lines of research. And research is about discovery, and there's sometimes you find things you didn't expect. But by cutting those, we're going to be losing those critical lines. And we may not understand those losses until many years down the road. And then we're going to lose the improvements to society. Because as I mentioned, it's the research and innovation that form the foundation for improvements in our society. And these are going to be the impacts. Now, Rutgers research has grown dramatically over the last 5 years. Here's one measure of research, which is the number of sponsored awards, the number of grants that we receive. And we are approaching $1 billion a year as a research enterprise. It's about 16% of Rutgers' budget. It's increased since 2020, it's increased 41%. This is reflective of the remarkable work being done by Rutgers investigators and our students in pursuing research grants. Our invention revenue has also increased. The number of startup companies that we're spinning out from research has also dramatically increased. And so we've become a very large research university that complements the incredible teaching that we provide and incredible public service. And so we have 1,600 investigators who have at least one grant. We have more than 4,600 grants in our research portfolio. And so it's hard for me to actually describe everything that all 1,600 faculty are doing. But I wanted to pick 4 faculty and tell stories that I think are particularly remarkable, but at the same time, they're symbolic of the type of work that's being done at Rutgers. Grace Brannigan, a professor of physics in Rutgers Camden, does a little genetics in her spare time, leads the Center for Computational and Integrated Biology, is also the principal investigator of an NSF-funded Welcome to Codes for Life, C4L program. This trains undergraduate and graduate students and supports research. We're training the next generation to use computer simulations to solve society's greatest biological challenges. Vast areas of exploration, forensic toxicology, stress neuroscience, evolutionary genomics, mitochondrial cell biology, metabolism, and many more. Fantastic. This is a signature research effort in Rutgers Camden. Kevin Lyons, professor of business in Rutgers Newark, who works on integrated global supply chain research. I think we maybe have heard something about that recently. Never needed more time in research. Kevin is a fantastic looking at supply chains and how you integrate environmental, socioeconomic, ethical criteria into supply chains in procurement systems, and particularly focusing on health and pharmaceutical supply chains, which are of particular interest to New Jersey. Jim Simons, professor of plant biology in SEBS in Rutgers, New Brunswick. He's a plant geneticist, does research focused on the new uses of traditional crops and crop development. He's best known for research on the development of more resistant crops. His work has been subject of a movie called Fields of Devotion for his dedication to help New Jersey farmers develop more resistant crops. This movie is actually being considered by the AAU for their Breakthrough Brand Perception campaign. It's one of 3 that are being considered, which really demonstrate the importance of research done at research universities with impact on individual people's lives. In this case, it's farmers in New Jersey. It's a real remarkable honor for Jim and for Dina and for Rutgers University that we're in that group, and we're an exemplar for every other member of the AAU, the Association of American Universities, which are the 71 largest research universities, that we tell stories in this way, and we need to do more of this. His work in resistant basil plants was recipient of an Edison Patent Award, and he's won a number of other awards in New Jersey agriculture. And finally, I wanted to pick from Rutgers Health, Ian Oldenburg, a new assistant professor, the future of Rutgers. He is studying the great unsolved problem in human biology, which is the brain. How does the brain work? And he's studying the interaction here between basal ganglia and the cortex. And what's really remarkable about his work is he's developed a platform and technologies to actually assess the behavior of particular neurons, to really understand at a very molecular level how neurons are interacting. And he wants to relate this to behavior. And Dr. Oldenburg, in recognition of his work, was selected by the NIH Director's New Innovator Award. There's only about 50 or so of these given out. They're extraordinarily competitive. He was the first Rutgers faculty member to get one of these in more than 5 years. So we have great scientists at various levels, and there's great promise ahead of us. Now, there's lots of other ways in which Rutgers research and innovation are contributing to our society, to our economy, to our life. Of course, Rutgers had the first FDA-approved at-home saliva collection test during COVID-19. We have startups to provide safer prescription opiates. We've received awards for meniscus implants from the Edison Patent Awards. We're exploring schizophrenia, which affects 1% of the world, which is an enormous number of people. Ray Panettiere led and renewed recently the Translational Research Institute in Jersey ACTS, NJACTS, an enormous grant that provides incredible foundation to translational research here at Rutgers. It was the first time we got that award. He renewed it early. It has 7 years of funding now. Fantastic job, and it's impacting all sorts of research across the institution. And we dragged along a couple other schools with us, NJIT in Princeton. They also partnered with us. We got that grant. We're racing to develop a Paxlovid replacement because it turns out COVID is still out there, and we're going to need drugs to fight that and other viruses. We have drones that actually can operate underwater and then exit the water and fly through the air in our faculty in our School of Engineering. We're launching companies to use AI to prevent deepfakes, which is something that I'm sure we're all concerned about, and we're trying to help everybody navigate the spring allergies. And then finally, I'll finish with this last slide. We're trying to remove carbon from, and this is Rick Ryman's work in the School of Engineering, to remove carbon from making concrete, which is generates an enormous amount of carbon. Rick is a brilliant engineer in the School of Engineering. Fernando Muzio was recently funded by DARPA to determine the feasibility of proposed systems for manufacturing injectable drugs in theater, on site, to do so and do it in a way that's immediately FDA approved. It's a remarkable innovation, and DARPA is very interested in this and funding it. We're trying to make more efficient biofuels. We have startups to deal with, Neurotech is a startup to deal with rehabilitation. And finally, the Cancer Institute of New Jersey, led by Steve Labuti, which was just renewed, really is New Jersey's only state-designated comprehensive cancer center, and it allows patients to get patient care with our close partners from Barnabas Health, right here in New Brunswick. You don't have to go to New York, you don't have to go to Philadelphia, you come right to New Brunswick and get your patient's cancer care there. And we've all had relatives who've had cancer. Having great quality care like this nearby is a real difference maker. So I've talked a lot about what the outcomes have been of research and what the faculty are doing. So what's the role of the Office for Research in supporting this? And from the day I arrived about 3.5 years ago, I suggested a notion to my team that we're the members of every faculty member's team. That everything I just showed you doesn't happen unless the Office for Research does their job really efficiently. That we're as important as discovery, as a graduate student and a technician and a faculty member. We need to work together as part of their team. And I think, as you all appreciate, research is highly regulated, it's very complicated. And our goal is really, and I think about this as we're trying to maximize this latent variable. We want faculty to have, how many minutes a day does a faculty have to think about their research, scholarship, and creative endeavors, or to think about their teaching? Because we don't want to burden them with thinking about, administrative stuff that they have to do. So can we remove that complexity, really make it simple for them, and allow them to achieve their greatest work here at Rutgers? And so we're a platform provider. I'll also use an analogy that we build the roads upon which Rutgers faculty drive their mini scooters or SUVs or electric cars or buses. And so we see ourselves as really integral to the process of research and innovation and discovery here at Rutgers. And so we have a vision, a mission, and values. Our vision is we want to be the most innovative and trusted research office among all research universities. And I tell my team that I compare us to the 71 members of the American Association of Universities that are the largest American research universities, and I want to be number one in everything that we do. I want to beat every single one of them. And we strive to do that every single day. Our mission is to support the research, scholarship, and creative endeavors of all Rutgers faculty. And that means faculty who are artists and humanists, faculty who work in social behavioral sciences, faculty who work in the life sciences, or faculty who are engineers or natural scientists. We take seriously our mission to support all faculty, recognizing that faculty have different needs depending on what is their area of research or scholarship. And then our values that we bring to our work every day are respect, simplicity, collaboration, and excellence. I can summarize the Office for Research in one slide. So we have over 300 people in the Office for Research. This slide shows my outstanding executive leadership team, and it shows the functions of the Office for Research. So there's 26 functions here. These are the 26 things that we do that no one else at the university does. And underlying these 26 functions are 280 services that we use to we quantify and measure the impact of those services, and that's how we support these functions. And so we are the people who push the button on the $1 billion of grants. Our research financial services team gets us reimbursed when faculty members spend Rutgers money on grants, and the sponsor reimburses us. That's what the RFS team does. We manage research contracts, so we manage more than 2,500 contracts worth $500 million to the university every year. We deal with research regulatory affairs, so all research export control, research security, anything to do with human subjects research. So I serve as the institutional official for Rutgers, and anything that goes through the IRB is under research regulatory affairs. We manage that. Policy and training, so we train because research is complex, so we have to train local support, we support faculty. We manage all the animal vivaria, so we have 22 animal vivaria. We manage core services, and we have a core services policy that we help the local units set up, locally manage, or we in some cases centrally manage cores so that they can support key platforms and faculty need to do great work. We manage key research relationships, such as Colgate-Rutgers Alliance. We're negotiating an agreement right now with Nokia Bell Labs. We have a relationship with Picatinny Arsenal, Princeton Plasma Physics Lab, other sorts of key university-wide relationships that have impact on our teaching and research missions. We manage all Rutgers technology transfers, so we have more than 1,348 technologies. All the startups that come out of Rutgers come through our office. So we had 9 startups last year. We've had 9 startups this year. We have a lot of startup companies that are coming out of work and discoveries we've done here. And then I have a finance administration team that supports the entire organization. And we've invested a lot in data analytics and business intelligence in particular, so that we're very agile and nimble with our use of data and understanding data. And I describe us as a very data-informed organization. We really report research outcomes and operations in a monthly reporting dashboard. And so this is an example of an outcome, the number of university-wide sponsored awards. But we also have key processes in the Office for Research that we can measure the outcome. So how long does it take to submit a grant? How long does it take to get a grant set up once you receive the grant? How long does it take for a contract to get negotiated? How long does it take for a protocol to go through the institutional review board? And we measure the entire workflow. So we actually are able to measure both what's done centrally and what's done locally. Because sometimes in these large processes, they're very complicated. They touch many parts of the university. And it may well be that the problem that we face is actually a local problem, and they need assistance to figure out how do you do this sort of step more efficiently. And so we send those out routinely, and we continue to build these sort of operating dashboards for our organization. We have improved an enormous number of services for our researchers. When I arrived at Rutgers, Rutgers IRB had not been AHRP accredited. It had never been AHRQ accredited. We were the only school in the Big Ten not so accredited, only one of the few in the AAU not accredited. I was surprised as you. We got fully accredited in December of 22, and we are undergoing a full reaccreditation right now, and I expect by later this summer we'll be fully reaccredited for 5 years. And we have really transformed the Institutional Review Board, and I have more faculty come to me and say, thank you for fixing the IRB. It's a dramatically different experience, and it's essential because we do so much research that involves human participants. We've run a number of enterprise research applications. We've had 30 upgrades to these systems. We had 20 actually in this fiscal year. So I have a fantastic IT team, and we continually update these systems, and our goal is to try to simplify and remove complexity from faculty, getting back to that we want faculty to have more minutes in the day to focus on their research and teaching. When there's ambiguity in how something should work, we build SOPs, we support policies if needed, so we have frameworks. Faculty often want to know how do things work, and we need to provide the framework and the structure for how something works. As I mentioned, we really enhanced our data analytics, so we now have dashboards that have more than 600 users from across the campus because individual research deans in schools or deans in schools or faculty can register, access, and look at data from their particular area of interest. And then we've been implementing AI. We've been the lead of that actually in the AAU. So we first implemented a predictive AI more than 3.5 years ago, focused on speeding research contracts. So now we can take a contract and instead of having a lawyer have to read it, the initial draft for 3 hours, we can in 2 minutes get a marked up document with suggested track changes that the negotiator can then negotiate, and then we can read and finalize much more quickly. This is one of the big problems with universities. We're notoriously slow dealing with contracts. We're now very fast, and we track that. But the most exciting thing that we've done, and this has all been since January 20th, is actually using AI, and it's forced us to innovate in a way that I think is really fascinating. So I think we all recognize that the research future and probably funding from the federal government is going to be increasingly competitive to come by. Budgets are likely to be cut. It's going to be challenging. And so we've been thinking, not only managing the current crisis, but managing looking forward, saying, how do we make our faculty more competitive? Allow them to be more competitive for that funding that's going to be more difficult to come by. And so we have developed a methodology to write prompts to use Google Gemini to actually ask questions about our 4,600 grant portfolio that we could never have asked before. And so now we can do things like determine award discipline and identify awards with key information. We can ask specific questions. And the power in this lies in that we can have companies external to Rutgers, we can have government entities, we can have people just interested in saying who does research and what. And I don't have to actually know the person at Rutgers and make that connection. I can now objectively search through our grants database and pull out the people in it and say, here are all the people at Rutgers that actually do this sort of work that might be relevant for your particular question. It's a very powerful technology, and we're continuing to develop that. We're also using AI for our process enhancement. So a lot of the steps that my pre-award teams do are a bit monotonous. And one of the key ways for AI is to actually remove some of that monotony and allow them to work more directly with faculty to provide better service. And so we've been doing that and developing those sorts of protocols. And then the area that I'm interested in working on in the next year is actually invention discovery. So we know that we probably have great ideas here at Rutgers that we're actually not patenting, or we're not trademarking, or we're not protecting in some way, things which could be turned into a company. But we've never, and as far as I can tell, no research university has done this, has ever actually looked at their research portfolio and asked the question, you know, are there people we should be talking to? Are there technologies we should be talking to? Someone got a new grant. You know, are there ways to do this? One of the observations in patents, for example, is that women get many fewer patents than men. And my hypothesis has always been is we probably just ask them less often, or we don't actually consider and include them in a way that is objective. And I think this sort of technology using these platforms can allow us to discover those people who have patents and ideas that actually might be worth enormous amounts of money to the PI, to Rutgers, and we can do so in a way that's much more efficient and effective. So let's get back to the current crisis. How are we helping manage that? We are certainly working very closely with all my colleagues in the cabinet, with the Office of General Counsel in particular, all the chancellors, research deans, working with faculty. We're also working with other institutions, so all of us in the cabinet are working with our Big Ten peers. We're working with other VPRs from across the nation. I work with senior research officers from the AAU, the Association of American Universities. We're currently staying on top of current and emerging issues. These things seem to come out Friday afternoons at 4:30, but they come out sort of regularly, and we have spent a lot of weekends dealing with issues. We're managing the federal notices and terminations, trying to communicate as clearly and effectively when we have accurate information, make it simple, communicate clearly to faculty. It's a very fluid situation, so things change very quickly. And then we're continuing to innovate in how we use technology and data. So we're using this as an opportunity, even though it's stressful and it's very chaotic, we're still trying to innovate and look forward. What are we going to do a year from now or 2 years from now? How do we position our faculty to be as competitive as possible? So this is one example of a result. And I mentioned that we're pretty nimble with data in our organization. We built dashboards like this very quickly that could basically tell us how we're managing stop work orders, terminations, tell us the outcomes. Right now at Rutgers, and I emphasize this to faculty, that if you get a termination or you get some notice from the sponsor, you have to send it to federal-tracking@rutgers.edu. That's the entryway into our workflow. We treat each one of these as an individual event. We work with the Office of General Counsel to review the information that we have, provide recommendations, and work with the dean, the faculty member, the research team to get the best possible outcome. And we've been successful in a lot of cases with just changes in language. There's been no interruption of the research, no interruption of funding. There have been some grant terminations, and in those cases, we have to work with the deans and the research teams, and they have to make decisions about how the research continues. So at the end of the day, I just want to say that I could not be more proud of my team in the Office for Research. This group works extraordinarily hard. They have been working 7 days a week since January 20th. They've done everything I've asked and beyond. And I think if you talk to faculty at Rutgers, they'll talk about, I get emails regularly from faculty telling me, oh my God, thank you so much for the service. Your team was really helpful. It helped us manage this situation. Because when your grant gets terminated, it's really a personally traumatic situation. And we want to be there to help those faculty. And we really are motivated, and we have this shared belief that Rutgers' best days are yet to come. And we're going to get through this together. And so I'll stop right there and take any questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Swift. I will open the floor now for comments or questions. It was very comprehensive, so I can understand why you might not, but this is also not a shy group. Dr. Zubair?
So thank you for great presentation and your leadership, no question about it. I think we need leadership more than ever. We all know what's going on, and what I have fears that these researchers and academic, what happened in post-COVID, we lost thousands of people, but post-COVID effect was much severe. The population could not work. What I see today, what's happening with the grants and centrally, I think these researchers are all under pressure. What are we doing psychologically, supporting this community to get through this and continue their positive work? I think sometimes we realize they are amazing people who are working so hard and forget they're human beings and they personally need something to hold on to, what be tomorrow and after tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, that's a very broad question, obviously. I will say that one of the key messages that we've had and the President has urged us to communicate is keep calm, carry on, keep doing your work. You can't be paralyzed by some fear that something might happen, right? I mean, you have your grant, you've got things to do. We've been telling people, spend money, gather your data, prepare yourself for your next grant. As I mentioned, when a grant is terminated, we work directly with the faculty member and their dean and their support structure to actually support them in this way. And I think the deans and the research teams have a really critical role in supporting faculty. And then in terms of psychological support, this is not an area for the Office of Research, but Human Resources, I know, has amazing faculty staff and support programs, and I'm sure there's other programs that they can avail themselves. But I agree with you. I think this is emotional and complicated, and we try to take that in mind as we approach this in a very human fashion.
Anyone else? Okay, great. Thank you very much, Dr. Sir. What a pleasure to have you here. We'll now move into the public comment section of the meeting today. I have 6 people who have signed up to speak today. Just a friendly reminder to keep your remarks focused on the agenda item that you've signed up for. We are delighted to have you here and appreciate that you came this way to share your thoughts and inputs with us. First speaker that signed up this afternoon is Tara Matisse, please.
Am I coming to this podium?
Welcome and thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. Excuse me. It is allergy season. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. Thank you for all of your important work to support Rutgers. I'm Tara Matisse. I don't know what, am I talking too loud?
No, it's not you. I just want to make sure that
It's not my camera, dude. It's not my microphone.
I think it might be the laptop. How's that?
It's their sound system.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Is that better? Excellent. Alrighty. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. Thank you for all of your important work to support Rutgers. I'm Tara Matisse, Distinguished Professor, Chair of the SAS Department of Genetics, and an elected member of the AAUP Executive Council, and a proud member of Rutgers University community for over 25 years. The funding, well, I was going to speak after one of the upcoming topics, which had to do with funding for a lab for mass spectrometry. And that would have been a perfect segue to what I came here to comment on, but actually Dr. Zwick's comments work just as well. I'm here to ask the Board of Governors and Rutgers leadership to find ways to make new funds available to help support biomedical research at Rutgers, which is where I live. Specifically to help keep our R1 research labs operational and successful during this unprecedented time of attack on research and education. It seems like every week there's a new proposed cut or actual change in funding, things that are making Rutgers researchers' lives incredibly stressful. Thank you for the comment about stress and psychology. We are carrying on. We're trying to stay calm, continuing to do our work, but we are also scrambling to review our grant budgets to figure out how we will continue to be successful at our jobs if our labs lose some or all of their existing funding, either right now with terminations or in the coming months, or if cuts and changes to NIH and NSF funding make it such that the already difficult process of getting grants becomes even more challenging. I will remind you that in addition to conducting our research, an integral part of what we do is to train undergraduates, graduate students, and postdocs in our labs. So we are impacted by both attacks on research and attacks on education. Will I be able to afford to keep the grad student who's in my lab? Can I hire the new grad student who just finished rotating in my lab and wants to join? Of course, we always have to consider these questions, but now we have to do them while facing an uncertain funding future. Attacks on DEI also hit us hard, as many scientists have been working for many years to increase diversity among STEM researchers. Funding we purposely sought and were awarded that is specifically for the training and inclusion of underrepresented people is now ending. Just today, I heard of a grant in that category. I'm almost done. I close with my request that you simultaneously resist these attacks on research and education and help us be able to continue our work beyond the much appreciated initial emergency response. Back to Dr. Zwick's comments, help us have more minutes to focus and think instead of needing to pore over budgets and stressing about our near future. And of course, please do it in a reasoned, thoughtful, and transparent way. We've all had enough of the chainsaw and sledgehammer approach. I understand that being successful at both resisting and supporting will not be easy, but I'm confident that you can find the solutions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your thoughtful remarks, much appreciated. Our second speaker
Hello. I'm connecting my comment to the agenda point 12E1, and the senior VPs of research comments are also really applicable. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at Rutgers. I study the developmental effects of plastic-related chemicals on the brain. This research involves studying effects of estrogen-like chemicals during puberty. Recently, chaotic federal regulatory changes have threatened research like this and many, many others on multiple fronts. Federal funding of Research One institutions across the country has been cut for a number of reasons that have nothing to do with scientific integrity or advancement. Research like mine or others is being cut because this administration thinks it is too woke, even though this is a meaningless and undefinable term. Or funding from many of these institutions, like Rutgers, has been cut or is being threatened to be cut unless the universities comply with draconian and frankly barbaric violations to the First Amendment rights of their students, who justly protest against and call for divestment from entities complicit in the US-funded Palestinian genocide. None of these are reasons to cut funding to scientific inquiry and medical advancement, or to bend the knee to a clearly fascist administration. I just want to know what action you will all commit to and take defense of Rutgers and its students and its workers, whether that's from multi-billion-dollar endowments, changing financial focuses from athletic departments that lose money, or something else. The students and employees here should be able to continue to call it a safe place that advances public health and one that they can build a future in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The third speaker we have signed up today is Maria Eva Doringo. Thank you for coming. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Maria Eva Dorigo. I'm a research project coordinator whose work includes recruiting New Jersey immigrants residents for the largest health research study in our state, trying to understand the reasons for health inequities among immigrant populations and improving the access of quality health services for all. Additionally, I serve as an executive board member of my Union Rutgers, of Rutgers Administrators. Cuts to funding would end important projects that serve the public good. As a URA member, I'm also very concerned that any funding cuts will result in staff layoffs or increased workload without compensation for my fellow URA colleagues. And the actions of the Trump administration threaten more than our employment. I spent the first 10 years of my life under dictatorship. I was personally affected by state violence in the country I was born in. The negative reaction of the new government to dissent and the curtailment of freedom of speech and academic freedom is chilling. The impact this behavior can have on the quality of higher education will be immense and long-term. Students, teachers, and staff must be protected. The tentacles of authoritarian regimes never stop at universities. They will come for anyone who dares to interfere. This is the time to stand and protect each other. Academic institutions must function as defenders of free speech and spaces that protect critical thinking. On behalf of the more than 2,800 administrative staff represented by URA, I urge you to stand strong in the face of these serious threats from the federal administration. Join the other universities who are standing up. Protect international students, scholars, and our immigrant communities. Defend our constitutional rights and protect our jobs. Thank you.
Good afternoon, folks. Thanks for fixing the audio. Good to see you all in person this year. So, good afternoon. I'm Eric Putney, a grad worker in physics and astronomy on Bush campus and co-chair of the AUP AFT Fellows Organizing Committee. So today you're hearing our request from all of us that Rutgers and the board stand up for this institution in the face of grave fascist attacks on the American education system. To have any hope of a successful defense, Rutgers has to get its house in order. The precarity of this moment only builds upon the existing precarity experienced by our grad students well before Trump 2.0. During their time here, a grad student will go between titles on a yearly or sometimes semesterly basis. Grad workers swap between teaching, research, part-time lecturers, and fellowship appointments all the time based on just whatever funds are available. While their work remains largely the same across appointments and are always generating value for the university, their compensation is far less stable. In fall 2025, a graduate fellow will make $10,000 less on average than their TAGA counterparts, offered worse health benefits, pays thousands of dollars per year in student fees, and importantly, is not recognized as a Rutgers employee. Right now, we're fighting back against tremendous attacks from the federal government, and this is admirable. But we need to be clear what we're fighting for. The current system for grad workers is one of great precarity. You don't know what health care is available to you. You don't know if you're going to be able to make rent next semester, and you don't have any control over this arbitrary title applied to you. All of this precarity is further compounded for our international workers, who are quite literally putting their safety and security on the line by coming here and helping us realize that tripartite academic mission that Dr. Zwick just spoke about. The Fellows Committee is asking the board, President Holloway, Chancellor Conway, and EVPA Mogi to take more steps to protect our grad workers and grad fellows. We appreciate the work that has been done, particularly the recent establishment of the first minimum stipend for grad fellows, but there's still a lot to do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me speak to the Board of Governors. My comments are connected to 12E and Mr. Zwick's fantastic presentation. I thought it was very good. My name is Andrew Goslin. I'm a fifth-year PhD student in biomedical engineering. I study how to prevent death from hemorrhage and thrombosis after severe traumatic injury, and I'm the Secretary of Graduate Students in the Rutgers AAUP AFT. Higher education in the United States is at a fundamental crossroads, and your leadership is needed to shift this direction and take us down the correct path. Over the years, Rutgers has taken the path of illegitimate layoffs of writing program faculty, numerous staff firings, and has allowed for the disrepair of housing and buildings across the university, putting the health and safety of students at risk. All of this, even when the university has an $800 million unrestricted reserves, $2 billion endowment. We're always told that there are restrictions preventing the use of these funds to fix these problems, but there are restrictions, but these restrictions are put on and they can be taken off just as likely. Now on top of this, we face the threat of international students being disappeared from our campus, federal funding being cut, leading to further layoffs and cancellation of critical research programs across our university. Our staff, faculty, lecturers, and graduate workers provide critical services to our beloved community, educating our students and performing research which helps fight cancer, AIDS, brain injury, and numerous other public health issues. This is the core function of our university and is at threat right now. We had a $72 million athletic program deficit last year and are likely on track for the same this year. This, in combination with these funding cuts and continuing firing of our workers, will lead to the fundamental failure of Rutgers as a university. We call on the BOG to work with faculty, staff, graduate workers, and students to utilize unrestricted reserves and extra funds, reprioritize funding of education and not other projects like athletics, so we can help weather this storm together. I want to say personally that previous Senator Helmy, when you were on the Senate floor talking about restriction of aid to Gaza, it took great courage, political courage in this environment to do that. I'm calling on all of you to also express that courage. Coordinate with us to phone bank legislators when President Holloway talks to them in May. Defend students from ICE if they come to campus and try to deport them. Reallocate funding from these other non-critical programs to education and research, which is so critical for our economy and our community. Rutgers has the money, but does Rutgers have the courage? Thank you.
afternoon, board members. Charlie Cradaville. I am a New Brunswick resident, class of 2009, editor of New Brunswick Today. I am recording today's meeting, and we'll share out the video on our YouTube channel later today. I just want to start by commending all the prior speakers and saying that I stand in solidarity with them against these attacks on higher education, agree with what was said. And I'm here to speak about a couple of resolutions. I got to express frustration that I requested but did not receive the project summary, which is referenced as, quote, attached to both of these draft resolutions regarding the Helix H3. This is a $35 million project worthy of full and thorough transparency. Can you tell me why wasn't this summary provided, and when will it be made public? That's a shame. I'll draw your attention to the third whereas clause in both of the resolutions, where reference is made to NJ Innovation Urban Renewal Associates LLC being, quote, designated as the redeveloper for the project site. Can anyone tell me what date that designation was made? Nobody's going to say. Yeah, I'm not sure that's totally accurate, but it's unfortunate that the board restricts the topic of comments, effectively silencing criticism on the university's many scandals, such as the fact we have not had an athletic director leave office on good terms since the 90s.
Charlie, if you continue to go off topic, I'm going to stop you.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's ridiculous how few meetings you have each year, how you require people to sign up in advance to speak.
I'm trying to show some grace here.
Okay.
We have rules. If you don't like them, that's fine. But there's the rules that we have, and we're going to operate with them. So until they're changed, that's when we're going to continue. So I would ask you, please respect the rules of the meeting.
I do think it's ridiculous how you make people sign up in advance, and in light of all that, it's downright undemocratic. You only give 2 minutes for folks to speak who sign up through the proper channels. I signed up to speak on a resolution. I came here to speak on 2 resolutions and asked 2 questions, and so far I'm 0 for 2 on getting any kind of response. And of course, even with all that, you wouldn't look so bad.
You're wasting your valuable time arguing with me.
Please don't interrupt me. Let me just finish. It's only 2 minutes.
Not even anymore.
Okay, well, it wouldn't look so bad. You all wouldn't look so bad if you at least made an effort to honor requests for documents and answer good faith, legitimate questions when asked in public. But you don't look good doing this. Thanks for nothing. Do better. The Rutgers community deserves it.
All right, we have now finished the public comment portion of the meeting today. We'll move into committee briefings. I will move to the Committee on Academic and Student Affairs. Dr. Dockery, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Committee on Academic and Student Affairs met on March 22nd and heard from senior leaders who reported on Rutgers scholarship and fellowship winners, researched the federal landscape and the university's honors programs, including the Honors Integration Committee's efforts to integrate Rutgers New Brunswick's 4 communities into one robust program. The committee also endorsed proposed resolutions establishing the Bachelor of Science in Entrepreneurship and Innovation degree program at the School of Business Camden and the endowed professorship in Arts and Health, as well as recommendations for the award of honorary degrees at Rutgers commencement ceremonies in May 2025. I'm now going to move on to the award of honorary degrees and commencement speakers. On behalf of the Committee on Academic and Student Affairs, I have the pleasure of presenting for the board's approval the following candidates for the award of honorary degrees and to be named as commencement speakers in May 2025. First, I would like to present Ms. Micheline Thomas to receive an honorary Doctorate of Fine Arts and to serve as commencement speaker during the Rutgers University Camden and Graduate School commencement on Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. Ms. Thomas is a world-renowned visualist and filmmaker whose work is in numerous private and public collections, including the Guggenheim Museum, the Museum of Modern Art, and the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. She was recently named in Time's 100 Most Influential People of the World. Madam Chair, I so move.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? The motion's carried. Thank you.
I would also like to present Mr. Rami Youssef for the award of an honorary degree of fine arts and to serve as commencement speaker at Rutgers University, Newark on May 22nd, 2025. Mr. Youssef is a Rutgers Newark graduate and award-winning Egyptian-American creator, actor, producer, director, and comedian, whose works include the acclaimed animated series #1 Happy Family USA, which debuted in April. Madam Chair, I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Abstaining? The motion's carried.
Thank you. I would now like to present Dr. Lobson Tenzin Negi to receive an honorary Doctorate of Science during Rutgers Newark's commencement ceremony. Dr. Negi, who serves as the co-founder and executive director of the Center of Contemplative Science and Compassion-Based Ethics at Emory, is a pioneer of compassion training and has made important contributions to the development of compassion sciences through his research. Madam Chair, I so move.
Second. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed or abstaining? The motion's carried.
I would now like to present the commencement speaker and candidates for the award of honorary degrees on May 24th, 2025 for Rutgers University, New Brunswick, and Rutgers Health. For your information, I would first like to present Mr. Peter Zelikman, a proud Rutgers alumnus who has dedicated his life's work to conservation and the pursuit of an environmentally healthy world through his work as the co-founder and chairman of Conservation International. Mr. Seligman is also co-founder, president, and chief executive officer of Neotero, an organization dedicated to securing the rights and livelihoods of indigenous peoples as guardians of vital ecosystems. Mr. Seligman received an honorary Doctorate of Science from Rutgers in 2003 and will be returning on the banks to address the class of 2025.
Second. Well, he's more than enthusiastic. He comes from the august class of Rutgers College, 1972.
I would also like to present Mr. Raji Vinakota to receive an honorary Doctorate of Laws. Mr. Vinakota is a pioneering entrepreneur who is dedicated to helping Americans from all walks of life become productive and engaged members of society. As president of the Institute for Citizens and Scholars in Princeton, he leads initiatives that provide young people with the skills they need to become effective leaders during these deeply divided times. Madam Chair, I so move.
Is there a second, please? Second. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Abstaining? The motion's carried. Thank you.
Finally, I would like to present Dr. Lori L. Patton to receive an honorary Doctorate of Letters. Dr. Patton is a highly respected American academic, author, poet, and leader in higher education, known for her expertise in South Asian religious studies and innovative academic leadership. In 2015, she became the 17th president of Middlebury College, breaking new ground as the institution's first female president. In January 2025, Dr. Patton was appointed president of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, one of the nation's most prestigious learned societies. Madam Chair, I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed or abstaining? The motion is carried.
Madam Chair, this concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Guthrie. We'll now move over to the Committee on Finance and Facilities report, please. Mr. Law?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Committee on Finance and Facilities met on March 11, 2025, during which it endorsed resolutions pertaining to the Helix project, the Wright-Ryman Laboratory Building on Bush campus, and the New Jersey Medical School in Newark, all of which have been placed in the consent agenda. The committee also heard financial reports for all chancellor-led units, as well as updates on new projects, financial sustainability, and the impact on recent federal actions. Madam Chair, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rao.
13th, 2025. And during the meeting, the committee endorsed the proposed resolution engaging KPMG to perform audit services for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2025 for the Board of Governors' approval, and it is included in the consent agenda. The committee also heard an external auditor's report, an update from the Executive Vice President, Chief Financial Officer, and University Treasurer, an overview on medical malpractice, and various other reports. Madam Chair, that concludes our report.
Thank you very much, Ms. DiMartino. We'll now move over to the Committee on Health Affairs. Mr. Taffet.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Committee on Health Affairs met on March 25th and received updates on the integration of 2 medical schools to establish the Rutgers School of Medicine, which was further presented here today as well. The committee also heard a presentation on the Rutgers Health Strategic Plan and received a financial update as well as reports from Chancellor Strom and Dr. Ganassi. That concludes our report, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taffet. We'll now hear a report on the Committee on Intercollegiate Athletics. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Committee on Intercollegiate Athletics met on March 25th. We received a report from Mark Griffin, the Director of Athletics and Recreation in Newark, and a splendid report on the progress of the campus's teams and programs. The committee also received an update on the House of Representatives versus NCAA settlement from Ryan Kazarian, Director of Athletics, and from Matt Pomeroy, Deputy AD and Chief Compliance Officer, including the decision's impact on NIL and the transfer portal. Thank you, Madam Chair. This concludes the report.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. We'll now receive a report on the Joint Committee on Investments. Mr. Gower, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Joint Committee on Investments held a special meeting on March 17th where it endorsed the management recommendation of up to $10 million for a private equity, wonderfully named fund called Caffeinated Capital Venture Fund 5 LLP. That concludes my report.
Wow, I love caffeinated venture fund at this time in the afternoon. We had such great reports earlier, and then it kind of fades. Anyway, back to the moment at hand. Over to the consent agenda. Mr. Lau, would you please move the consent agenda?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are there any items the members want to remove from the consent agenda? Hearing none, upon recommendation of the Committee on Academic and Student Affairs, the Committee on Finance and Facilities, the Committee on Audit, and the Committee on Health Affairs, I move that the Board approve the items contained in the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion of the consent agenda? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? The consent agenda is carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Lau. At this point, I will call on Ms. Lucille Foster to present the report of the University Senate, please. Lucy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The University Senate met on Friday, March 28th, 2025 via Zoom. At its regular meeting, the Senate adopted the following resolutions, the full text of which is available on the Senate website. At its regular meeting on March 28th, the University Senate adopted the following resolutions and recommendations. Trends in Rutgers budget priorities and allocations, resolution to establish a mutual defense compact for the universities of the Big Ten Academic Alliance in defense of academic freedom, institutional integrity, and research enterprise. Senate Bylaws, Article 4, Senate elected representatives to the Board of Governors and the Board of Trustees. At a time when the core values of higher education, free speech, the integrity of research, and the democratic governance are under growing threat, the Rutgers Senate has taken a bold stance by sending a powerful message within the Big Ten Academic Alliance of Senates. By proposing a defense compact, we are not only defending the principles that define academia, but also setting an example of solidarity and moral courage that resonates far beyond New Jersey. We believe this action reflects the best of Rutgers, a commitment to truth, a readiness to stand firm in the face of political pressure, and an unwavering belief in the role of universities as stewards of democracy. The Rutgers Senate can appear to be many things, a villain, a hero, or merely a passing thought. It's clear that the Senate does not embody a single, consistent theme. My continued role as chair is not to be right, but to engage openly in discourse and to gather the necessary data points for thoughtful consideration and debate. Rutgers Senate will continue to lead with purpose and conviction. The Senate remains committed to serving the Rutgers community and contributing to the Board of Governors. Thank you all for your unwavering dedication to this important work, and together, on behalf of those we serve and the future generations of Rutgers. Madam Chair, this concludes my final report to the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any old business that needs to be brought before the board? Any new business that needs to be brought before the board? Before we adjourn, I just want to thank everybody for making time to be here, including our guests that came from the public. We appreciate the majority of the comments, and we all agree that we're living through unprecedented times with the federal government, who has historically been the backbone of important funding of research that brings life-changing improvements to us, whether it's neurological research, engineering feats, anything like that. We have clearly benefited from that, and we're now at a time where we're faced with a federal government who's not supporting the good works that we have. This board clearly understands the challenging environment that we're in, frankly, the best we can at this time. Everybody's struggling to understand the nuances, even of things that seem direct. But I believe this university is up for this challenge. We've been here for over 200 years. We're going to be here for over another 200. We've lived through economic crises. We lived through existential crises, and we're going to live through this again. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be bumpy. We're going to have to work together, but I'm highly confident that we're going to see through this together. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you to the leadership team on my left that provides so much support, encouragement, and leadership to our staff and faculty and to this board, frankly. Thank you to all my governors and Senate leaders on the right. Thank you for your care and commitment. Your volunteers, you've all committed a ton of your time and energy to support this board and to support this university. And thank you to the Senate for your high level of engagement and inclusion in this board, and me personally, and for the leadership and support you provide to our faculty, students, and staff on campus. So thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy this beautiful afternoon. Take care. This meeting's adjourned. I guess we'll see you.